Hey guys, Ben from SnowBoardGamer. I'm here with my friend Shaun.
Hey guys, how's it going?
He's joining me today and brings a topic to the table to discuss. What's your topic today?
Things that cause you to hate a game.
Ooh, and I did not even know what the topic was. Shaun just said, I got a topic, let's go.
When you sit down and you play a game, what causes you to be like, man, this game was not any fun, I just don't want to play this game again?
I would say the number one factor that causes me to not like a game is playing with someone who is a negative Nelly or a bad attitude or so overly competitive that they make the game not fun. And they can ruin a good game that way.
Okay, so you're answering the question more from a social perspective.
Yeah.
And not from a mechanical one.
Right.
Can you think of a mechanical example?
Munchkin I do not like Munchkin.
What is it about Munchkin that you don't like?
It's just, you spend all this time doing all these things, and at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter. Someone in like 2 turns could go bam, 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 game over. I get it. It's supposed to be more of a social experience, but something doesn't sit well with me in Munchkin.
I would agree, and I would even go so far as to say a game that nullifies a portion of the gaming experience. You spend time doing something in the game, and then it ends up not mattering. Like, say, Killer Bunnies?
Yeah, I mean, Killer Bunnies is one of the first games that we bought, and we're like, oh, this game is cool, and it's kind of fun. But the more you play it, it's got that same factor as Munchkin, where you spend all this time doing these things. And yeah, it's supposed to be about the experience, and there's some silly and funny cards in there, but at the end of the day, some random carrot is drawn, and that's the winner of the game.
An example for me, I don't like extreme randomness in my games. Now, don't get me wrong. I think some randomness is very good.
We were talking earlier today about Colt Express. There's a lot of randomness in that, but it's not extreme randomness. So where do you draw that line between, where do you cross the line into too much randomness where it makes the game not fun?
Well, I would disagree about Colt Express. I think Colt Express is not random at all, and it's just memory and election of tactics in the moment.
So when you're going through the training, you have no idea what everyone else played.
Sure, but if you're paying attention and your memory is good, and I'll be honest, mine's not the best, before the tunnel comes, you can kind of get an idea about what everybody else is doing. You see that first card, you say, okay, he's looting, he's probably staying in the same car, a general idea of the options.
Guess, right?
Right. Something that's extreme random that I hate, Settlers of Catan. I really don't like the fact that I can strategically choose the right number. The 6, 8, 9. That's a great spot. I put my piece there, and despite the math, I never end up building anything. That's not very fun.
And because why?
The dice just didn't happen to come up in my favor. There was not enough rolls to account for the statistical likelihood of where the dice would end up.
So bad dice rolls then. How about this? What if we say a game that is too heavily dependent on a dice roll?
Well, but see, I'm a big fan of Mage Wars, and Mage Wars is all about dice.
Yep.
So, but there's something in there that causes me to really dislike the way it's done in Settlers of Catan.
What about Machikoro? It's almost like Settlers of Catan with cards, and it's got a similar feel to it, but you can kind of negate the dice rolling aspect by either spreading your cards out, or you can go all in on one, kind of risk it. Do you not like that?
Well, it's in the same flavor as Catan for me. I don't know. Maybe my brain is too math focused and think, okay, I've got a 1 in 7 chance to hit this number, and I only see a 1 in 14, and that just really irritates me. I mean,
but the odds don't play out the way they're supposed to.
Right.
So maybe a game just that heavily favors the odds versus your choices and the impact of your choices.
Right. It makes my choices early in the game feel like they didn't matter as much as they should have.
Travis has sometimes complained about the dice rolls in Twilight Struggle. How do you feel about that?
So Twilight Struggle is a slightly different beast. First of all, the game is not just dice rolling.
Fair enough.
And the play, when you choose to roll the dice, matters. So you can sort of, when I went back for predicting 1 in 7 and not hitting your 1 in 7, when you're rolling the dice in Twilight Struggle, you're taking risk. Obviously, when you're rolling, you're letting chance decide your fate. But you're selecting the timing of that risk. Maybe I'm behind and I have to risk. Mm-hmm. Maybe this risk is acceptable to me because I have these other factors that play into the risk and negate the extremes.
I always tell Travis that if you feel like you lost in a game like Twilight Struggle because of dice rolls, then you played the game wrong because you shouldn't be reliant on those dice rolls alone to win the game. That being said, if you just keep getting a few bad dice rolls, they can eventually add up. To your earlier point about Settlers of Catan, like I feel like you could still get that same one even in a game like Twilight Struggle, which is a deeply strategic game.
Sure.
I'm just playing devil's advocate a little bit. So, back to the topic here. What would you say is your most hated dice game?
Most hated dice game?
You clearly don't like relying on dice in games. So, game that relies on the dice too much that you just can't stand.
Well, I guess you're not going to let me answer Monopoly.
No, that's valid. Absolutely. I mean, talk
Shall
about...
we beat that horse a little bit more?
I think that's fair. Yeah, Monopoly just, doesn't do it for me. What about this? Let me throw a little wrench in it here. It's not a dice rolling game. It's a pig rolling game. Have you played Pass the Pigs?
I have. I don't really like that game either.
It's more of a push your luck game. It's just meant to be kind of a silly game if you have 10 minutes to kill and you don't have time to crack open a deeper game or even a lighter game for that matter. Just 10 minutes, roll some pigs, try and get a double schnauzer or whatever they're called.
That's true, but if you want to play a good dice rolling game, we can play Cosmic Run.
I agree. 30 minutes or less, and it's... The thing I like about Cosmic Run is that it's a dice rolling game. Think of Yahtzee, you roll dice, you do something with them, you keep re-rolling, you're trying to get 2, 3, 4, 5 of a kind, but you don't feel like your dice are wasted.
Well,
that's what I like about it.
And
their choices.
There's a lot of randomness because obviously you're rolling dice, but the mechanics let you mitigate that randomness. Sort of like Twilight Struggle again, you have control, and not complete control, but you have a lot of influence over what happens.
I would say I don't mind some dice in a game, as long as the game is not heavily dependent on the dice.
Okay.
I actually like Machikoro.
That's fair.
Because I feel like you can minimize the dependency on the dice by how you purchase the cards and how you stack them and how you combo them.
Maybe if you play it enough, you get to that point. But my first impression was that it was very similar to the things that I disliked about Catan.
So we'll get back to mechanics. My initial gut reaction was playing with someone who just brings the level of fun in the room down and just like pops the balloon of fun, you know?
Right.
But
certainly any good game can be ruined by the people you play it with.
Fair enough. Okay, so let's get back to mechanics then, because that's something a little bit more tangible that we can talk about. So we've talked about randomness. We've talked about dice, which kind of plays into randomness.
Right.
It all keeps coming back to kind of randomness.
Well, extreme randomness.
Extreme randomness.
So we need something else that's not related to randomness.
Here's one that I just thought of. When a game is so overly complicated that the first game takes so long, it can just turn you off. And Travis and I had that experience with First Martians. And there's a lot of love and a lot of hate for this game out there. But for us, I've tried to like it, and it can't draw me in for some reason. It's just, there's so much going on. And it's driven by this app, and you have to have the app on a tablet or a phone. And it's like, okay, random event happened. Okay, this happened. And I get it. You're on Mars and there's a harsh planet and this thing breaks and you got to go repair it. I mean, the theme of it is, I've heard people go on about how it's such a great theme, and I can't tie it together. To me, it just seemed like a big spreadsheet. And it's like, wait a minute, well, if we do this, then we do this, and we do this. Like, it completely lost the theme to me because you're so drawn into the complicated mechanics that the theme gets lost.
Okay.
Have you ever had anything like that?
Well, as somebody who really likes the complicated games, I've never really entered that particular realm. I've not found the game that turned me off strictly because of its complexity.
And I do like complicated games, don't get me wrong. But something that maybe it's not overly complicated games. I mean, Twilight Struggle is very complicated. It's a beast to learn. Once you learn it, it's not that bad. But learning it, and Terraforming Mars is the same way. I really like that game. I guess it's probably more of what I said earlier, to the point of you're spending so much time on the mechanics that you just forget what the game's all about.
Something that won't by itself cause me to hate a game, but will certainly push me in that direction, is a game that has too strong of a rubber band mechanic. And that is a game that really helps the person in last place catch up with the rest of the pack.
Oh,
interesting. I prefer strategic games that reward forward thinking and tactical planning, things of this sort. If I get into a game and I'm good at those things, I expect to run away with the game. I expect to only be challenged by good implementation of strategy and tactics from my opponents. And so if the game has a mechanic that rewards people who don't execute very well, then I'm more likely to be turned off of that game.
The only thing I would say on the flip side of that is, depending on the type of the game, some games are just maybe silly or meant to be lighthearted, and I'm okay with a catch-up mechanic in that type of game.
True. I'm talking specifically for games that are on the strategic side of
Fair
things.
enough. Is there a game with a catch-up mechanic that comes to mind that just irritates you?
You're probably not going to like this answer, but Power Grid sort of does this for me. Because of the meta of being in last to be first. If you have a game where the winning move is to be in last because of the bonus you get for being in last, maybe that design is not quite so good.
Okay, so I'm going to poke at you a little bit, but we played Custom Heroes the other weekend, and I remember you commenting saying it's almost better to not win in that game.
That's right. I feel like the reward for being first is worse than the reward for being second.
But did you like the game?
I do think the game's good, yes. Maybe the line isn't far enough apart in Custom Heroes as compared to Power Grid. It is entirely possible to win Custom Heroes by finishing first. I mean, you have to, if you're going to win the game, you have to finish first at some point.
Yeah.
But you're not quite so heavily penalized for being first in Custom Heroes as you are, I feel, in Power Grid.
Yeah, Power Grid, your first place, you really just, you buy everything last, you have to pay more. I mean, I think it's a very interesting mechanic. Is that maybe a strategy, though, is to kind of lay low and just kind of sit in last? But not by much, though. You're only like by 1 or 2 points versus just shooting forward.
But that depends on the people you play with. Maybe my problem is that I've never played Power Grid with an experienced group of people who all fight to be last. And I've played with a very broad range of people who, for example, know the meta and will play to last, and for someone who doesn't and just jumps out into first. And so you have this giant disparity between the players.
Yeah, that's fair. I played 2-player with Travis. We pulled out Power Grid. I haven't played it in a couple of years, and Travis and I played a couple months ago, and it was pretty gritty. 2 players. It felt almost like a game of Twilight Struggle.
Really?
I actually enjoyed it, yeah.
Okay.
So maybe we need to play that one some more. I know you only played it a few times and just it did not have that wow factor.
No, it did not.
And that's fair. Not every game does.
It did not turn my electricity on.
Now, I'm going to go back and kind of poke at myself a little bit here. Power Grid to me is a spreadsheet in board game form. And I already said earlier, I don't like when the game completely takes away from the theme, but I feel like it didn't take away from the theme. It's just so mathematical.
Right.
But that didn't bother me.
No, it's not overly complex from moving pieces standpoint.
Right. I mean, you're buying resources, you're powering power plants, you're powering cities. It's not that complicated.
No.
And it didn't take away from the theme. But that first Martians to me just totally did. I'm just like, wait, but if we do this here and this here and this here, and then, oh wait, we're on Mars. It's like you forget what you're doing in the game.
If you look at my game collection and my traditional genres of liking board games, you wouldn't think that I love Cosmic Encounter nearly as much as I do.
I was surprised when you said Cosmic Encounter is number 1 for you, because you're so into these deep, heavy games.
But it's that change of pace. It offers the thing that I can't get from all my typical strategy games.
I posted on Instagram the other day about Colt Express, and the first comment immediately was like, it's too random for me. I don't know why anyone likes this game. I commented and said something to the effect of, look, board games they're like food. You don't want steak every night. You can't handle steak every night. Sometimes you want something else. You want to change a pace. You want to mix it up. And so the lightheartedness one night, heavy one another night. If you play too many heavy games in a row, your brain just can't handle it. You want something light.
That's true. And like I said before, just because a game is light doesn't mean it's not fun.
Let's wrap up on that. Thanks for joining today, Shaun. It's been a lot of fun.
No, thanks for having me, man.
Yes. And subscribe for more board game videos, and we'll see you next time.
Bye.
Bye.